"I'll satisfy you tonight," the giant bride said to the virgin cowboy. He hesitated, but she grabbed him and said, "I'll teach you, I'll satisfy you tonight." Maya Thornton's words shattered the silence of their wedding night bedroom. Not their first wedding night, but the one that actually mattered, as she watched her virgin cowboy husband press his back against the door like a man facing execution instead of his own wife. Caleb Morrison was 26 years old, 6 feet of lean muscle and calloused hands. A man who could break a wild horse and work from dawn till darkness without complaint. But right now he was shaking so hard his teeth chattered. "Maya, please, I can't." His voice cracked with raw shame, and she saw it written all over his beautiful, terrified face. He'd never touched a woman, never been touched, never even kissed anyone before their awkward church ceremony 3 weeks ago. His preacher father had beaten the desire out of him, called it sin, called it filth, called him an animal every time young Caleb had dared to feel human. And now this giant bride, this experienced widow, who knew exactly what happened between a man and a woman, was looking at him like she wanted to devour him whole. And Caleb wanted it so desperately he could barely breathe. But the shame was choking him, drowning him, killing him. "I don't know what to do," he whispered. And tears, actual tears, burned in his eyes. "I'll ruin this. I'll disappoint you. You were married before. You know how it's supposed to be. And I'm broken, Maya. My father was right. I'm broken and dirty, and I don't deserve—" But Maya crossed that room in 3 strides and grabbed her virgin cowboy by the shirt, yanking him away from the door, away from his escape route, away from the shame that had poisoned his entire life. Her hands framed his face, forcing him to look at her, forcing him to see the hunger and tenderness blazing in her eyes. "Stop," she commanded, her voice thick with emotion. "You're not broken. You're not dirty. And tonight I'm going to prove it to you." Her thumbs brushed away his tears. "I'll teach you, Caleb, everything, every single thing you've been too afraid to want, every touch you've dreamed about, every moment you've ached for. I'll teach you." The virgin cowboy's breath came in ragged gasps. "But what if I can't? What if I'm not enough?" "Then we'll learn together," Maya said fiercely. "I'll satisfy you tonight, Caleb Morrison. I'll show you that desire isn't shame, that wanting me doesn't make you an animal, it makes you human. And I'll teach you how to satisfy me right back." His eyes went wide, dark, desperate. "Maya," she kissed him then, hard and claiming and full of 3 weeks of waiting. When she pulled back, Caleb was trembling for an entirely different reason. "I'll teach you," she whispered against his lips. "But only if you're brave enough to let me." 3 weeks earlier, Caleb had stood on the train platform watching this tall, confident woman step off the Denver rail line. And his first thought was that she was the most magnificent thing he'd ever seen. His second thought was that she'd take one look at him and get right back on that train. Maya Thornton was everything he wasn't. Worldly, experienced, comfortable in her own skin. She carried herself like a queen, all 5'11" of her. And when she shook his hand, her grip was firm and warm and made his heart hammer so hard he thought he might die right there. "Mr. Morrison?" "Yes, ma'am." "I mean, Caleb, just Caleb." She'd smiled at his nervousness. "I'm Maya, thank you for answering my letter." Her letter. God, her letter had been so honest it hurt. "I'm a widow, 28 years old. My husband died 2 years ago in a mining accident. His family wants what little money he left me, and I need to leave Denver before they make my life unbearable. I'm not looking for romance. I'm looking for partnership, safety, a chance to start over. If you're willing to give me that, I'll work harder than any woman you've ever met." Caleb had written back immediately. His childlike handwriting spelling out his own desperate truth. "I inherited my uncle's ranch, but I don't know how to run a household. I was raised by a preacher father who taught me that women were either saints or sinners. I don't know which you are, but I promise to treat you with respect. I can offer you safety and a home. That's all I have." They'd married the next day in a quick ceremony. The preacher, not Caleb's father, thank God, pronounced them man and wife. Caleb's kiss had been so brief and terrified that Maya actually laughed afterward. "We'll work on that," she'd said gently. But that night, Caleb couldn't do it. He'd stood in the bedroom doorway, looked at the bed, looked at Maya waiting patiently in her nightgown, and felt his father's voice screaming in his head. Lust is sin. Desire is weakness. You're an animal if you can't control yourself. I'll sleep in the loft, he'd said, and fled before she could respond. That was 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks of living like roommates instead of husband and wife. 3 weeks of Caleb working himself to exhaustion during the day so he wouldn't have to think about the woman sleeping 1 floor below him. 3 weeks of Maya being patient and kind and slowly going insane with loneliness until this afternoon, when everything changed. Caleb's father had arrived unannounced, riding up to the ranch with thunder in his eyes and judgment in every line of his body. Reverend Thomas Morrison had spent 26 years crushing his son's spirit, and he wasn't about to stop now. So this is the woman who trapped you into marriage, Thomas had said, looking Maya up and down like she was livestock, tall, forward. I can see the sin in her eyes. How many men has she been with, boy? Did you even ask? Caleb had gone white. Father, have you consummated this marriage? The question hung in the air like poison. Maya had watched Caleb's face crumble, watched him become a child again under his father's withering stare. That's none of your business, Maya had said coldly. It's every bit my business. My son was pure before you came along. If he hasn't touched you yet, there's still time to annul this farce. Still time to save his soul from a woman who'll corrupt him. And that's when something had snapped in Caleb. He'd stepped between his father and Maya, his whole body shaking, but his voice steady. Get out. What? I said get out. Off my land. Out of my life. You don't get to talk about my wife that way. You don't get to make me feel ashamed anymore. Thomas's face had gone purple with rage. You ungrateful. I'm done, Father. Done letting you tell me I'm broken. Done believing that wanting someone makes me evil. Done living in fear of my own heart. Caleb's voice had grown stronger with every word. Maya is my wife. This is my home. And you're not welcome here anymore. Thomas had left, spewing curses and prophecies of doom. And when the dust settled, Caleb had turned to Maya with tears streaming down his face. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry you had to hear that. Don't apologize. You just did the bravest thing I've ever seen, did I? He'd laughed bitterly. Because I feel like I'm falling apart. Maya had taken his hand. Then fall apart with me, in our bedroom, where no one can judge us. And now they were here, in this lamplit room, with 3 weeks of want and fear and loneliness between them. Caleb stared at his wife, at this giant bride who'd just promised to satisfy him, to teach him, and felt something crack open in his chest. I'm so scared, he whispered. I know. Maya's hands were gentle on his face. But Caleb, listen to me. My first husband, he never asked what I wanted, never cared if I was ready. He took what he wanted and left me feeling like I was just a body he used. Her voice shook. You're not him. You're gentle. You're kind. You see me as a person. That's why I want to teach you. Because I trust you. You trust me? He couldn't believe it. With everything. She kissed him softly. Now let me show you that desire and trust can be the same thing. Caleb's hands came up to Maya's waist, hesitant as a prayer. She covered them with her own, pressed them tighter, showed him she wouldn't break under his touch. The lamp flickered, casting shadows that danced across the rough wooden walls of their bedroom, and somewhere outside, a coyote called to the Colorado night. But in here, in this small circle of golden light, the whole world narrowed down to 2 people learning each other for the first time. First lesson, Maya whispered, her fingers working the buttons of his shirt. You're allowed to want this. Say it. I can't. Say it, Caleb. His throat worked. I want this. Louder. I want you. The words came out broken, desperate. God help me. I want you so much I can't breathe. Maya's smile was fierce and tender all at once. Good. That's good. She pushed his shirt off his shoulders, let it fall to the floor. Her hands spread across his chest, feeling the rapid thunder of his heartbeat. Second lesson, touch me back. However feels right to you. Caleb's hands trembled as they moved to the laces of her dress. He fumbled with them, cursed under his breath, started to pull away in frustration. But Maya caught his hands, guided them back. "There's no wrong way to do this," she murmured. "There's just us, learning." So he tried again, slower this time, and when the laces finally loosened, when her dress slipped from her shoulders to pool at her feet, Caleb made a sound like he'd been punched. "You're so beautiful," he breathed. "Maya, I'm your wife." She stepped closer, closing the distance until they were nearly touching. "And you're my husband. And we're allowed to be together like this." She guided his hands to her skin, shoulders, arms, the curve of her waist. Showed him how to touch with intention instead of fear. Every time he hesitated, she encouraged. Every time shame flickered across his face, she kissed it away. "Third lesson," she said against his mouth. "This isn't something you do to someone. It's something you share. It's a conversation without words. I don't know the language, then I'll translate." Maya walked him backward toward the bed, her hands working his belt, and Caleb's breath came faster, sharper. "Trust me?" "Yes." No hesitation this time. She pushed him to sit on the edge of the bed, knelt before him to remove his boots. The simple domesticity of the act, his wife kneeling to help him undress, made Caleb's chest tighten with emotion. When she stood and stripped away the last of her own clothing, standing before him in nothing but lamplight and courage, he couldn't stop staring. "You're looking at me like I'm a miracle," Maya said softly. "You are." Caleb reached for her, pulled her down beside him. "You could have had anyone. Why did you choose a broken man who doesn't know how to? Stop calling yourself broken." She rolled to face him, their bodies barely touching, but the heat between them undeniable. "You're not broken. You're just untaught. There's a difference." She kissed him then, slow and deep and thorough, and Caleb felt himself falling into it, losing himself in the taste and warmth of her. Her hands moved across his skin, mapping him, learning him, and tentatively, so tentatively, he did the same. When his fingers brushed somewhere that made her gasp, he froze. "Did I hurt you?" "No. God, no." "Do it again." So he did, growing bolder when she made that sound again, when her body arched into his touch. She was teaching him the language of pleasure, and Caleb was a devoted student. "Maya," he breathed against her throat. I don't know what I need. I know." Her hand guided his, showed him, and when he finally understood what she was offering, what she was inviting him to share, Caleb's whole body shook. "I don't want to hurt you. You won't, I promise. Just slow. Go slow." So he did, slow and careful and reverent, and when they finally came together, when Caleb finally understood what it meant to be truly close to another human being, he wept. "I'm sorry," he gasped. "I don't know why don't apologize." Maya held him tighter, moved with him, guided him through the rhythm and the wonder of it. This is what it's supposed to feel like, sacred, real, and it was. God, it was everything his father had told him it wouldn't be. Beautiful instead of dirty, connecting instead of separating, healing instead of shameful. Caleb felt something fundamental shift inside him, some terrible knot of self-hatred finally loosening. When it was over, when they lay tangled together in sweat-damp sheets and shared breath, Caleb couldn't stop touching her. Her face, her hair, her shoulder, as if confirming she was real. This was real. He hadn't dreamed the whole thing. He couldn't find words big enough. "I know." Maya smiled against his chest. "That was what it should be." "Is it always like that?" "No, sometimes it's quick. Sometimes it's just for comfort. Sometimes it's playful." She propped herself up to look at him. "But when it's with someone you're starting to love? Then yes, it's like that." Caleb's breath caught. "Starting to love? Don't tell me you haven't noticed." Her smile was gentle. "Caleb, I've been falling for you since the first day. The way you're so careful with the horses. The way you thank me for cooking like it was the first good meal you'd ever had. The way you look at me like I'm not too much. You're not too much." "You're exactly right." He pulled her closer. "Maya, I think I've loved you since you stepped off that train. I just didn't know I was allowed to." She kissed him, soft and sweet. "You're allowed. We're allowed. All of this, it's ours." They made love again as the moon rose higher, and this time it was slower, more confident. Caleb was learning fast, learning what made Maya gasp, what made her grip his shoulders, what made her whisper his name like a benediction. And when exhaustion finally claimed them both, they fell asleep wrapped around each other. Two people who'd been desperately lonely, finally finding home. But morning came too fast, and with it came trouble. Caleb woke to the sound of horses. Multiple horses. He was out of bed and at the window before Maya could even open her eyes. "Who is it?" she asked, pulling the sheet around herself. "Caldwell's men." Caleb's voice was grim. "5 of them. Who's Caldwell?" "Owns the ranch next door. Been trying to buy my land for 2 years. Caleb pulled on his pants, grabbed his rifle. "He knows I'm barely keeping this place running. Probably figured a new wife would make me desperate enough to sell." Maya was already dressing, her movements quick and efficient. "What does he want?" "My water rights. My grazing land, everything." Caleb's jaw clenched. "Stay inside. Let me handle this, like hell." Maya finished buttoning her dress, stood beside him at the window. "We're partners, remember? We face things together." Something fierce and proud flashed in Caleb's eyes. He nodded once. They walked out onto the porch together as Hiram Caldwell dismounted. He was 50, soft around the middle, dressed like he belonged in a Denver saloon instead of a Colorado ranch. But his eyes were sharp as knives. "Morrison, heard you got yourself a wife." Caldwell's gaze slid to Maya, assessing. "Tall one, strong-looking, that's good. You'll need her strength when this ranch goes under." "Ranch isn't going under," Caleb said evenly. "No?" Caldwell pulled papers from his saddlebag. "Because I've got a survey here that says your northern boundary is off by 40 acres. That water source you've been using? Technically on my land." Maya felt Caleb tense beside her. She stepped forward, hand out. "Let me see those papers." Caldwell's eyebrows rose. "Your wife reads legal documents?" "My wife reads everything." Caleb's voice was hard with pride. Maya scanned the papers quickly, her mind working through dates and signatures. Something wasn't right. The survey was dated 3 weeks ago, but it referenced a landmark that had been destroyed in a storm 2 months ago. She'd heard about it in town. "These are forgeries," she said flatly. "That's a serious accusation, Mrs. Morrison." "It's also true. This survey claims to have been conducted on September 15th, but it references Miller's Rock as a boundary marker. Miller's Rock was destroyed by lightning on August 3rd, so either your surveyor has a time machine or you're trying to steal land using fraudulent documents." The silence was sharp enough to cut. Caldwell's face went carefully neutral. "Smart woman. I like that." He leaned against his horse. "Here's the situation, Morrison. You owe the bank $1,800 by spring. Without that northern water, your cattle won't survive winter. You lose the herd, you lose everything. We'll manage," Maya said. "Will you?" Caldwell's smile was cold. "Or will you watch your new bride suffer through a brutal winter on a failing ranch because you're too proud to take a fair offer?" He pulled out a bank draft. $4,000. Enough to start fresh somewhere easier. Caleb's fists clenched at his sides. Maya could feel the war happening inside him. Pride versus fear. Stubbornness versus the desperate need to protect her. "No," she said before Caleb could speak. "We're not selling. Your husband should be the one making that decision, don't you think?" "My husband and I make decisions together." Maya's voice could have frozen fire. "And we're telling you to leave, now." One of Caldwell's men stepped forward. "Lady, you don't understand how things work out here." "I understand perfectly." Maya didn't back down. "You're a bully who targets struggling ranchers and uses fear to steal their land. But here's what you didn't count on. I spent 3 years managing my father's business accounts in Denver. I know property law, and I know fraud when I see it." Caldwell's mask slipped. For just a second, Maya saw the calculation in his eyes, the fury at being outmaneuvered by a woman. "You've got 2 weeks, he said finally. 2 weeks to come to your senses. After that, I file these documents with the territorial office, and we'll let a judge decide who's right." He mounted his horse, his men following. But before he rode away, he turned back. "Enjoy your wedded bliss while it lasts, Morrison. Winter's coming, and when your wife is cold and hungry and regretting her choice, remember you could have taken my offer." They watched him disappear over the ridge. When the dust settled, Caleb turned to Maya. "I'm sorry. I never should have brought you into this mess. Stop apologizing." She grabbed his face, made him look at her. Last night you taught me what it means to be truly wanted. Today, I'm teaching you what it means to have a partner who fights beside you. We're in this together, Caleb, for better or worse. Remember? His eyes were wet. I remember. Good. Now let's figure out how to beat him. They spent the afternoon going through every document related to the ranch, every survey, every deed. Maya's mind worked through legal strategies, while Caleb provided context about the land, the water sources, the history of boundaries. There, Maya said suddenly, pointing to an old deed. This says your uncle purchased water rights from the territorial government in 1875. Those rights don't expire. Caldwell can't claim that water no matter what his fake survey says. You're sure? I'm sure. She looked up at him. But we need to file a formal complaint before he does. That means riding to town tomorrow, finding a lawyer, getting everything notarized. That's a full day's ride. We'd have to stay overnight in town, Maya smiled. Then we'll stay overnight, together, in a hotel, like a real married couple. Something hot and hungry flashed in Caleb's eyes. Maya, I'm not done teaching you yet, cowboy. She pulled him close. Not even close. He kissed her hard, lifting her onto the table, and Maya laughed against his mouth because this was what she'd been searching for. Not just passion, but partnership. Not just satisfaction, but joy. They made love right there in the afternoon light, urgent and hungry and free, and afterward Caleb held her close and whispered, I'll fight for this. For us. Whatever it takes, I know you will. Maya kissed his temple. Because you're not that scared boy from last night anymore. You're a man who knows what he wants, and what he wants is worth fighting for. But neither of them saw the rider watching from the tree line. Caldwell's man taking notes, reporting back. The war was just beginning. The ride to town took 6 hours through mountain passes, already dusted with early snow. Maya sat behind Caleb on his horse, her arms wrapped around his waist, and felt the solid strength of him keeping her safe. Every few miles, he'd turn his head slightly, checking on her, and she'd squeeze tighter to let him know she was fine. They reached Sterling Falls by late afternoon. The hotel clerk's eyebrows rose when they signed the register as Mr. and Mrs. Morrison. Honeymoon? He asked with a knowing smirk. Business? Maya said coolly, though Caleb's hand on her back said otherwise. Their room was small but clean. Caleb set down their bags and turned to find Maya already unbuttoning her riding jacket, her eyes dark with want. We should find a lawyer first, he said. But his voice was rough. Lawyer's office closed an hour ago. She crossed to him. We've got all night. What happened next was different from their first time. Less teaching, more equal partnership. Caleb knew what he was doing now, and Maya surrendered control. Let him lead. Let him satisfy her the way she'd shown him how. When they finally collapsed together, breathless and laughing, Caleb pressed his forehead to hers. I never knew it could be like this. That I could feel this alive. Neither did I. Maya's voice caught. My first marriage taught me to endure. You're teaching me to feel. But morning brought disaster. At the lawyer's office, they learned Caldwell had filed his claim 2 days ago, before his visit to their ranch. The lawyer shook his head grimly. He's got 5 witnesses swearing to his boundary lines. Judge Hawthorne presides next week. And Hawthorne. He and Caldwell are old friends. Maya's blood ran cold. We're going to lose. Not if we fight dirty, Caleb said quietly. Not if we find out what Caldwell's really hiding. Maya spent 3 days in town, digging through land records, while Caleb worked the ranch. On the 4th day, she found it, a transfer document showing Caldwell had used school district funds to buy properties. Embezzlement. Federal crime. She rode home through a snowstorm, the paper tucked inside her coat like a weapon. Caleb met her at the door, pulled her inside, held her until the shaking stopped. Did you find something? Everything. She showed him the documents. He's been stealing from the town for years. If we expose this, he loses everything. And we keep the ranch. We keep everything. The hearing came 5 days later. Judge Hawthorne sat behind his bench looking bored until Maya stood up and presented her evidence. The courtroom went silent. Caldwell's face drained of color. These documents prove Mr. Caldwell has been using public funds for private land acquisition. That's embezzlement, Your Honor, which means every property claim he's made in the last 3 years is invalid, including his claim against our water rights. Hawthorne studied the papers. His friendship with Caldwell warred with his reputation. Finally, he banged his gavel. Claim dismissed. Mr. Caldwell, you'll answer to federal authorities. They won. Outside the courthouse, Caleb swept Maya into his arms and kissed her in front of the whole town. You saved us. We saved each other. She grinned. Now take me home, Cowboy. I'm not done teaching you yet. That night, in their bed, wrapped in firelight and each other, Caleb whispered, I love you, my giant bride, my teacher, my everything. I love you too. My virgin cowboy who learned fast. They laughed and loved and built a life that proved desire and devotion could be the same thing. We want to hear from you. Drop a comment telling us where you're watching from, and don't forget to hit that notification bell so you never miss our next story. What did you think of Maya and Caleb's journey? Let us know below.